Erev Shabbos, in other words, because that's the day before. Being that we can't burn the following day, we don't want to leave it for the end of the day, even though theoretically we should be allowed to burn it at the end of the day. That is going to be confusing with other years. So we burn it at the same time at the end of the 5th hour. And we're still eating chametz. We still have chametz in our possession because you can still eat chametz until Erev Pesach in the morning, which is Shabbos. So we burn the chametz Erev Shabbos before the end of the 5th hour, and then we continue eating chametz until the next morning because we have to eat the Seder of Shabbos. We have to eat challah during the meal. And we discussed how we eat the challah. That you either keep small bags of challah, eat in the plastic bag, or you could have pita bread, which is doesn't make so many crumbs. We spoke about egg matzah. I don't know if you want to go into that, but if anyone wants to use egg matzah, which is not chametz, it's another option. You have to eat a certain amount; becomes a mitzi. So if you eat, let's say 7 ounces of matzah shir, that is the egg matzah that's kosher for Pesach, which we don't eat. It's kosher for Pesach, but usually we shouldn't be eating it. Only people who need to eat it. But before till the time you can still eat chametz, you can eat it. There's no problem. So you can eat chametz on Erev Pesach until the end of the 4th hour. So till then, you can eat the egg matzah. If you want to use that to serve the Shabbos. Okay. Now, other things you have to keep in mind is that after you're done with eating the chametz, you want to clean your mouth. You want to floss. You want to use toothpicks, whatever works to get the crumbs, the chametz out of your mouth. If you're using floss, then the floss should be cut before Shabbos. You can't cut floss on Shabbos, so you cut it before Shabbos. Assuming that you don't bleed. If you bleed when you floss, then you shouldn't be using floss on Shabbos. Then you try other ways to clean your mouth. And also, you're also going to be doing the bittul, the nullification of the chametz. Usually, right after we burn the chametz, we do bittul. We say kol chamina, we nullify the chametz after we burn it, in case there's something that wasn't found. So you're nullifying any chametz that you know, you don't know, you saw, you didn't see, you're nullifying all the chametz. That's what we usually do after we burn the chametz. But this year, after we burn the chametz, we're not nullifying the chametz because we still have chametz. So the bittul nullification of the chametz is going to be Shabbos morning after we finish eating the chametz and we're done with chametz. Then you could say that kol chamira, and that could be done until the end of the 5th hour. So keep saying that on the 4th hour and the 5th hour, but you'll see on the calendar, you'll see 2 times, one early, one later. One is going to be about 11, maybe like 10:58, 10:59, maybe it could be exactly 11 or 1, around 11. Other one will be 12. So 11. That's till when you can. That's the end of the 4th hour. That's what we're discussing. That's till when you can eat chametz, and then the next time is till when you could, on a regular year, that's when you should burn the chametz by then, and on Shabbos that means that's till when you have to nullify the chametz. But as soon as you're done with the chametz, you're finished eating and you're finished. You don't have no, you flushed everything down the toilet, whatever's left. Then you could say kol chamira, but you have until the end of the 5th hour, which is approximately this year, 12 o'clock. At the exact time, you'll see on the calendar when it gets close to Pesach. Other things in regards to Erev Pesach, but this year Erev Shabbos. So on a regular Erev Pesach, there are things we need to prepare. We discussed about the things you're not allowed to do on Erev Pesach. And we said, but this year it's different. You are allowed to do those things that usually you can't do, like haircuts and other things, mending clothes, fixing things. And this year allowed. But then there are things that you have to prepare for Pesach, usually on Erev Pesach. This year, you're going to be doing it Erev Shabbos, because on Shabbos, which is Erev Pesach, you're not allowed to do all these things not only because it's Shabbos and things you can't do many things on Shabbos, you're not allowed to prepare on a holy day on Shabbos for another day, even though it's one holy day to the next holy day. Still, you're not allowed to use a holy day to prepare for the next day. So on Shabbos and Pesach, you can't do any preparations. There's nothing you can do to prepare for Pesach. Nothing. There's one thing you could do. You can take a nap to be rested for the Seder. But even then, you're not supposed to say, you're not allowed to say, I'm going to take a nap so I can be rested for tonight. You're allowed to do it, but you're not allowed to say it. So there's like a, in other words, it's once you verbalize it, then already it's becoming, now you're preparing. When you're doing it, you're doing it. I want to sleep. I mean, I can't sleep now. I'm tired. I want to sleep. Because my intention is, okay, so the intention is, but to verbalize it, it says you shouldn't verbalize it. Then it becomes more of a, like now you're preparing. You're clearly saying you're preparing for the next day. Okay. So we're going to discuss the things that you need to prepare on Erev Shabbos. So you need to prepare the Zraya. So let me put on the boards. We have over here the Kaira. So you need to prepare the stuff that you need for the Kaira. Yeah, almost. Drawing is not my thing. Some of my kids are very good at drawing. They didn't get it from me. Suraya. We have Suraya. There you go. Martyr. This is it. Right. So we're not focusing on the night of the Starim, but I'm putting the Kairos so you see what things need to be prepared on Erev Pesach this year, Erev Shabbos. This is Karpas and Chazeres. Yeah. Okay. So these are the things for the Seder, and we're going to be preparing it on Erev Shabbos. Zuraya. Zuraya means the arm. It says Hashem took us out with an outstretched arm. In actuality, we don't use the arm, we use the neck. I'm not going to go into the reason now, but the meaning is we use the neck of the chicken and we roast it. And the reason why we roast it is to commemorate the Karban Pesach sacrifice. So we have the neck of a chicken that's roasted, and we roast it. We don't need to boil it first. The way it is raw, you just roast it over the fire. Then you figure out a way how to do it without making a big mess. Basically, you cover the top of the stove top with silver foil, and you roast it there, and you can throw out the silver foil. You don't mess up the whole stove top. The minig is by us coming from the Frierdiker Rebbe that we remove after we roast it. We remove most of the meat, most of the flesh on the neck. We remove, so it shouldn't be. Even though it's resembling current Pesach, we don't have the impression of actually current Pesach as meat, so we remove most of the meat. That's what the Frierdiker Rebbe did, and that's what we do. That's after it's roasted. Now, if you didn't roast it, let's say, if you got to roast it and it's already Shabbos, of course Shabbos you can't roast. But when it comes the night of the Seder, then you have to roast it then. But then, because you're roasting it on Yom Tov, you have to make sure to eat it on Yom Tov. You can't cook on Yom Tov if you're not eating it. So if you're going to be, let's say you forgot to roast it, roasting it the night of the Seder, then you have to make sure to eat it the following day. You can't, at night you can't eat it, because the resembles the current Pesach, looks like eating current Pesach, so the following day you're going to eat it. Then we have the eggs, just hard-boiled eggs. Make sure to boil it up before. The maror is the bitter herbs. Chazeres is also here, and here we put the same thing. Even though it says maror, it says chazeres, but it's the same thing. The translation of chazeres is romaine lettuce. Chazanis is a form of mar. I'm going to go to the reason now. So Chazanis is a form of mar. Mar is a general term, but what we use, there's different types of mar. The practical ones is romaine lettuce and horseradish, and we use both horseradish and romaine lettuce. Luckily, you can use either one. Use just romaine lettuce, just horseradish, do this with any one. Our custom is we use both, combine both together. Now, the Seder plate, even though it says here, it says chazanis, but we put both in both places. Now, let's talk about the mar. Okay, so mar is romaine lettuce and bitter herbs. So the romaine lettuce you want to prepare before Yom Tov or Shabbos. So we're not going to the halachic aspects of the kashrus, how you check, however you usually check romaine lettuce, you do that before. And you also want to dry it. After it's washed, you want to dry it. You don't want it to be too wet when it comes Yom Tov. You have a full day now, but if you put it in wet into the dry and you close it, it might still be wet. You don't want it too wet because it goes on the Seder plate, and also, and eventually it's eaten with the matzah. So you don't want the matzah to become wet. So you don't want it too wet. You don't have to dry, totally dry, but you want to have some system that when you put it away, it should be relatively dry. Or if you leave it in open space, then the moisture will evaporate. But if you put it and you seal it in something, and with the moisture stays inside. The horseradish. Now, the horseradish you need to grind, and you cannot grind it on Yom Tov. Now, even though you're allowed to grind on Yom Tov, generally are allowed to grind on Yom Tov. Now, when we say grind, we think about like grinding with a machine. Grinding on Shabbos, the malach of grinding means taking anything and cutting it up and dicing it up into small particles, small pieces, slices. So let's say when you cut up a vegetable salad on Shabbos, we know you're not allowed to cut it up into very thin pieces because that's called grinding. On Yom Tov, you are allowed to cut up a vegetable salad into thin pieces. So grinding is generally permitted on Yom Tov, but not everything. When it comes to horseradish, Chacham don't allow us. Al-Tadeb is very strict about it because horseradish is generally done a lot for many days. Whereas a vegetable salad, let's say, you will just slice it up for that day, but horseradish usually do it for many days, so it goes into the category of weekly activity. So that can't be done on Yom Tov. So that's why you want to make sure to grind it before Yom Tov. And if you didn't, then when it comes the night of Pesach, you can't cut it up into tiny pieces, even with a knife. You're not allowed, according to the Alter. You could cut it into slightly larger pieces, not too thin, just slightly larger. Now, on a practical note, the horseradish, you want it to, especially it's going to be a full 24-hour period more or whatever until you get to the Seder. You want to keep it sealed. You want it to have you want it to be potent. You want it to be strong, and you don't want it. No one likes it so strong, but still, you want it to have some strength. It's horseradish. The reason why I'm eating it. So you want to seal it. And then we go to the charoises. Charoises. What is charoises? Charoises is a paste of apples, nuts, and wine. So apples, nuts, and wine. That is, yes, some use pears also. Nuts meaning walnuts. Okay, apples, walnuts, and wine. And that you want to do before Yom Tov, because again, crushing nuts is not allowed. Theoretically, apples would be allowed to be crushed on Yom Tov in certain situations, theoretically, but in this situation, we're also crushing nuts. You're not allowed, no reason why you'd be allowed to crush it on Yom Tov. We only allow crushing on Yom Tov when there's a purpose, like one of a fresh vegetable salad. With that more meat in that. So you want to make sure to crush it before and then mix it. Now, here's the thing: apples. You're mixing it with wine. Now, really, on Yom Tov, you're allowed to mix it with wine. What's the issue of taking crushed nuts, crushed apples, and mixing it with wine? That's lush. That's kneading. You can't knead on Shabbos. Yom Tov, you're allowed to knead. So that's not an issue on Yom Tov. To mix it with the wine, that could be done. But if Pesach is on Shabbos, then that becomes an issue. When we get to the Seder, we'll go into more details about the charesis. The charesis for the maror, the charesis for the also the maror. I mean, charesis for the maror by itself, and the charesis for the maror that you have with the sandwich. So we'll get to that and go into more details. So then comes the karpas. Karpas is onion. Okay. You could peel onion on Yom Tov. That's not an issue. You can peel on Yom Tov. And then chazeres, which is basically the same thing in both places. But the translation chazeres is romaine lettuce. Okay, so when we get to the Seder, we'll go into more details about go into more reasons what it's. But now we're focusing on Erev Pesach, the things that you want to make sure to prepare on Erev Pesach. Oh, salt water. Make sure to prepare salt water before Shabbos, because doing it on Yom Tov can be an issue. Different opinions about it, it's lenient, but prepare it before Yom Tov, solve the issue. Now, other thing in regards to the menu of what you're preparing for the night of the Seder, and that is that you're not allowed to eat roasted meat on the nights of the Starm, so it shouldn't resemble the current Pesach. The Chachamim was strict, and they said we're not going to distinguish if it's meat or chicken. The current Pesach was meat, but they said even chicken, in order not to shouldn't lead to confusion, they said even roasted chicken you cannot have on the nights of the Starm. So specifically talking about the nights of the Starm. And they said even if it's not roasted, but it's baked without liquid, sometimes people bake things without liquid, they just put on a pan, on a sheet, they bake chicken with no liquid on it, even that should not be done because it could lead to confusion when it has some similarity to roasting, and they said even that should not be done. So you can't have just plain baked chicken without liquid on it. Yeah.
So where are you supposed to eat?
Not Christine, well.
What else is there?
By the time you finish with the matzah, you won't have any appetite left. So what are you worried about? I'm just kidding. I'm kidding.
What did I do last year?
No. What we're saying is that what we're saying is you're gonna you pour sauce over the chicken. Sometimes people make chicken plain, like you just put it in, and they put it's not plain. Obviously, put something minimal, some type of spicing, some very but no, it's not sitting inside liquid. That we say it shouldn't do. That's it. Okay, so focusing on
baking without liquid is okay.
Baking without baking. That's exactly the point, because when you roast, there's no liquid. So when you're baking, even though it's not roasting, means over the fire. It's not over the fire because there's no liquid. It has some similarity to roasting. So the Alter Rebbe says we should refrain. We should not do it. We should not eat it.
There's other things we don't eat on the Seder, right?
Other things we don't eat. Okay, so we're getting to that. That's what I was about. Starting from Erev Pesach, you mean?
Yeah.
Right. Okay. So starting from Erev Pesach in the morning, there are certain things that many Chabad is that we don't eat. Even according to halacha, you are allowed to eat it, but many Chabad is that we don't. The only things that halachically you don't eat, you're not allowed to eat, and that you'll find even out of Chabad, they will not eat shmur matzah on Erev Pesach. But Chabad also does not eat other things, and that is anything that goes on the Seder plate. Actually, I shouldn't say that, not everything that goes on the Seder plate, only the mitzvahs that are on the Seder plate. the mitzvahs, that is the maror, the bitter herbs, which is the Roman lettuce and the horseradish. We don't eat on Erev Pesach, and also we don't eat anything that goes into the charosis. Apples, nuts, wine. We don't eat apples. We don't eat nuts.
We have eggs and like some people do potatoes, right? Or
Some
onions.
people, you're not talking about the carpus is not the issue. The issue is the charosis.
And eggs are also
Yeah.
fine, or
Eggs is not an issue. Some are machmir. It's really just the ones that are eaten for the mitzvah. Okay.
we can eat them Friday night.
Yeah, it starts in the morning. Everything starts in the morning. So whatever goes to charosis, the apples, the nuts, and the wine, and then that's it. Those are the things that you can't eat. Okay, until
We're gonna, like Kiddush, we're gonna have wine. Should we not drink
no, of course, if it's a purpose, it's a mitzvah.
at the meat, like
Right.
Shabbos meal? We
But
should
again,
drink.
so we have to keep in mind, we're talking about Erev Pesach. With this year, it's Shabbos, not the Erev Pesach that we're thinking about. The Shabbos, which is Erev Pesach, you don't need these things, but things are for a mitzvah. Obviously,
Like,
it's a custom not to do it. Anything that's a mitzvah, there's no issue.
but at the meal, like you shouldn't have a glass of wine. Or it's part of the Shabbos.
I think I haven't thought into it. Let me look it up. I think if it's the covered Shabbos, just take if a person. I would say that the person usually does it. Like that's what does the Shabbos meal, always takes a little wine.
Yeah.
I would say it's part of the Shabbos. Until when can't you eat these foods? Until when we're done with the mitzvahs. So until the second night of Pesach, after we finish eating the sandwich, until then you cannot eat all these foods. So the second night after we have the sandwich, matzah mar, now we can have all these foods.
Does that also apply to the roasted meat, or is roasted meat is both meats?
Roasted meat is an issue only at night, both nights.
Mhm.
Right, because that was the current Pesach, so you don't eat it. But during the day, you could have roasted meat. Okay, so we got through all the things for Erev Pesach. Let's see if there's anything else. Okay. Oh, another thing regarding Erev Pesach, that is talking about getting rid of the chametz. Many times people have dentures, different things they have in their mouth, dentures, and then they have braces, which is, it's in your mouth, but also it can be a little more difficult to clean. So you want to make sure, so that if you have braces, actually, so you want to pay more attention to make sure you clean it properly. But sometimes people have dentures that they can take out, but they eat with it all the time. Some people don't eat with it. Sometimes people do eat with it and eat hot food with it also. So you want to make sure to kosher it before Pesach. Like any chametz stick pot that you use during the year for chametz, and now you want to use for Pesach, you kosher it. So these dentures you use for chametz, so you want to kosher it. You want to kosher it before Pesach. It's not on the same level like koshering a pot because you don't cook it, so it doesn't take so much heat. Well, the chatchila, you want to try to kosher it as best as possible. So before Shabbos, you want to either put, depending, you have to know you don't want to damage it. So depending what kind of, how much temperature, how much heat it could take, either you pour hot water over it, you put it into hot water, whatever temperature of water it could take. So you have to just be aware you don't want to damage it. Another way is also to soak it for 24 hours in water. That also does something. Then actually soak it 24 hours 3 times in a row. That's another way how to do it. Okay, so these things are done before Shabbos.
Not only for dentures that like are removable, like I have a retainer, but it's permanent, like it's just going back in the.
Doesn't come out, it stays there.
Yeah, I was just like.
Even then, it's a good thing before Pesach for everyone, and everyone has fillings in their mouth. The fillings absorb some level of chametz, so it's a good idea for everyone before Pesach to take hot water and wait until you could tolerate the heat. It's not too hot, so you don't burn yourself. And then you take a little more hot water and put into your mouth in the places where the fillings are, and you leave it there for, like 6 to 10 seconds or whatever, and then you spit it out and you do another part of your mouth. So that's a good and proper thing to do. By the way, the Rebbe, they say the reason why the Rebbe barely had any teeth. Why? Because the Rebbe never made fillings. If you don't make fillings, you lose your teeth. But the Rebbe told him not to make fillings. The reason was because of kashrus and Pesach. Because there's an absorption that goes into it. Halachically, it's not an issue because the absorption is it's such a low level of heat, because you can't put food that's too hot into your mouth, you're gonna burn yourself. So it's a stringency when it comes to Pesach. We're machmir. All year round, you're eating milchiks and then having fleshings, hot milk, hot meat. And there's no issue. For Pesach, we're strict. We're advising people that they should do some type of level of kashering their mouth before Pesach. But the Rebbe did not have any fillings for that reason, because the Rebbe on a higher level. So there's an expression, the chametz b'Pesach b'mashu. Chametz b'mashu. Yeah, that chametz, even a drop of chametz, it becomes an issue on Pesach, that it does not become nullified if a drop of chametz falls into your food, right? So it says the isur of chametz is b'mashu. Mashu means whatever it is, a drop. So there's an expression that chametz b'mashu, the prohibition of chametz is b'mashu. Mashu could also mean what you are. Whatever, mashu means what it is, which could mean a drop. It could also mean mashu, whatever he is. According to the person's level, according to how high the person is, that's how much has to be careful in chametz. And you find by Rabbeim, but tzaddikim, they were very, very careful with chametz. So that's one of the reasons why the Rebbe did not have any fillings, both because of kashrus, milk and meat, and also because of chametz with kashrus. Yeah.
If you have no fillings, you don't need to do this.
Correct. Person has no fillings. If you're lucky enough not to have any fillings, then you don't have to do anything to your mouth. I mean, you still have to clean between the crack, with floss, whatever, make sure there's nothing stuck there. Okay. Now, as we're getting closer to the Seder, so when it comes the end of Shabbos, now Yom Tov comes in, and usually there is Havdalah, Matzah Shabbos. Even when Shabbos brings you into Yom Tov, we also do Havdalah. So therefore, before you start doing any preparations for the night of the Seder, you have to say Baruch Hamavdim and Kodesh LaKodesh. You're probably familiar on Matzah Shabbos. You say Baruch Hamavdim and Kodesh LaKodesh. So here you're going to say Baruch Hamavdim ben Kodesh LaKodesh before you do any preparations. I want to also discuss. There was a request to discussing the stringency of Pesach, which is not here. But anyways, we have 5 minutes left. Maybe we'll do that in a separate class altogether, all the stringencies, all the different ideas of stringencies, what we do, what we should do, whatever, we'll discuss it. So let's now talk about the Kiddush of the night of the Seder, just the Kiddush, because we're talking about that when you start doing preparations for Pesach, you're going to say, Baruch Hamavdim Kodesh LaKodesh. So the night of this first night of the Seder, the Kiddush also includes Havdalah. So this Kiddush is called Yak Nehas. This page is called Yaknehaz. It's abbreviation. Have you ever heard this before? Yaknehaz? Yeah, it's a very, yeah, you ever heard this? Yaknehaz. You've learned this term. It's a classical term where, it comes up a lot. That whenever Yom Tov is Sunday, not every Yom Tov could be a Sunday, because Rosh Hashanah, Sukkot, and Shmini Atzeres cannot fall out on Sunday, meaning the first, going from, well, actually, you can have it starting for Shabbos. No, you can have Shabbos and Sunday, then you have between Shabbos, yeah. But I mean, you can't have the first every Yom Tov on Sunday. Yeah, so you can have every Yom Tov. So anyways, it's Yayin, Kiddush, Neid, Havdalah is mine. Yayin is very roughly. Kiddush is the bracha Kiddush, Kiddush Anu. Neir, we use a candle. Like every Motzei Shabbos, we have a candle. Havdalah candle, so too, we have a candle. Not Havdalah candle, but just a regular candle. We don't light a special candle. The candle that is lit already. Yeah, the Lakas Neid is like the moment light. Just make a bracha on one of those candles. Havdalah is the bracha Havdalah. Just a little different because it's not a Kesh L'Ches, the Kesh L'Kesh. And then Zman is Shechianu. So that's the Kiddush, the first night of Pesach. Yes.
I thought the candle had to have 2 wicks. So in like one candle just be one wick.
It doesn't have to. It's preferable, but on a regular Motzei Shabbos. But when in this type of situation, it's not necessary. That this is good enough. The custom is that we keep it this way. You see, we're not supposed to be lighting on Yom Tov only for the purpose of Yom Tov. There has to be a purpose in it. So we cannot light just for that. So we already have a candle lit, so that's good enough. Halachically, you could say on one candle, so we don't light an extra candle. Huh?
It's the candles we light for that night, meaning for Pesach.
Yeah, right.
Like the Shabbos candles, the empty candle.
Right. That's all. Okay. Dismiss.
Yeah. That's the candle I'm just looking.
The candle that you're lighting for Yom Tov, you're lighting Yom Tov candles. So by B'nai Marish, you look at the candle.
And you're lighting that before you're doing the
Right. Before the Seder, before the Seder, we light candles.
We say Hamafio, the first brothers, you light the Yom Tov candles and then you make a dollar.
And you do Kiddush, then you start to Seder. But it's not exactly so quick. Because you can't do any preparations on Shabbos for the Seder. You have to wait till the time comes, say Baruch Hamal Kiddush, and then you start the preparations, including the lighting candles. But now you're just starting from scratch to set the table. So the regular year, you start earlier. This year we're starting later. This year, you have an advantage. You have a whole full day to rest, but you can only start until it's completely dark. So it takes a while. Other things talking about preparing on Erev Pesach. You want to prepare a cup for the 4 kaises. You want to choose a kais that suits you. You don't want to have a big kais. You don't want to drink so much wine. So you want to get yourself a smaller one. What's the minimum size of the cup? Minimum size is 3 ounces. 3-ounce cup is good enough. Preferably, it should be like a 5-ounce. Not really 5 because they don't make. It's really like 4.1, 4.2. It's around there. That's more mahudr. That's a better way how to do it. But they don't usually make exactly. They usually make exactly 3, 4, 5. There's one company I found that they make it a little like 4.5, a little more. There's such I found, but usually they make it on the ounce, 3 ounces, 4 ounces, 5 ounces. Now you want to have it 4.1 to have that better shear, and the only way to do it usually, if you go into a regular store looking for a case, you're only going to find a 5-ounce cup. So, but you could use it.
No Jew has made the 4.1 ounce.
So now there is some. I found a company. Yeah, there is. If you look around, you could find. Yeah. It's nice to beautify the mitzvah. You should have a nice cup, either silver if you can afford it, If not, if you can't afford silver, it's fine. So you just get some type of nice crystal cup, something nice. Shouldn't just be a cheap cup. Any cup that you use, whether it's for Kiddush, Havdalah, or for the 4 cases, cannot have any chips in it, any blemishes. It can't be, because you're beautifying the mitzvah. It's supposed to be a complete cup without any nicks and cracks, anything broken. Has to be complete. Yeah.
About the lighting for young kids. How big of a candle do you like before? Like, can you be like lighting it from like a door thing?
How big? Where do you like
Like
that?
from the flame. You're not gonna be.
You're not striking the match, right?
not
So you're
striking
lighting
that-
it. Right, so you make sure before Shabbos, you make sure to have an existing candle. Or if you have regular stovetop burners, not the coils, you have a fire there. If your stovetop is coils, then you should have a 48 hour candle, something like that, so that burns a long time to light from.
But you need longer this year. Because it's 3 days.
Okay, right, correct.
So you just.
So the question is, but if you light, unless you light something that's gonna continue burning for, longer amount of time. Yeah, okay, so whatever it is, whatever time, whatever size you need, yeah.
Yeah, I just don't look like this with my family.
Yeah.
It was like the 4-day yontif for like and David Sukkot, I think, that
Mhm.
year. And like, I want to take from the yard side candle, but it was in the kitchen. And then they were like, oh, well, one candle's already lit. So we're all just gonna take from that lit candle that was lit from the yard side. I was like, doesn't everybody need to do it from the yard side, like light their candle from the yard side candle?
As opposed to what?
As opposed to like, the yard side candle lit one candle, so now we're gonna use that flame.
What's the difference which one you use?
I don't know, I thought it had to be existing before the cloud started,
No.
no?
No, you're thinking
That's
about,
also.
You just.
Yeah.
need to freaking have it.
no, you're thinking
You
about,
want light?
you're thinking about Matzim Kippur, no. As long as you're lighting, you're not lighting you're not striking a match. You're lighting from a candle that's burning now. It doesn't matter if it was existing. You lit it from that to lit, doesn't matter. As long as the candle is
I
that's
really thought it had to be existing before the cloud started.
existing, because usually you can't, they say existing because you're not supposed to strike a match in Yom Tov, so saying it should be existing before. Usually it's not existing before, where you're gonna get fired from. But if you lit one from the other, then it's not a problem. Yeah.
People forget literally.
Sure.
The reason why we do a
Right,
shamish
yeah.
with the glass, like.
A shamish for?
Like for lighting, literally.
Candles?
Candles, like you don't use a candle
We
that was
actually
lit
saw this
already
guy
for the
with
mitzvah.
and that was trying to walk, they would go out in the middle of.
You mean, why not take a candle?
Yeah.
You can't,
Like the some,
That's
like
what
my
we did.
sister
No,
lit a candle
it was
for me
fun.
and I light my candle for her. Like this, like.
Well, sometimes
she'll-
they'll-
customers that we don't do
Where the
it.
candle goes out.
Until we avoid it, because you don't want to use a mitzvah, even if you go using it for a mitzvah,
We brought
when
one
it's
more,
brought down, you shouldn't
and
do
then
it.
someone got it. and
No, we don't
the
do it.
whole show was like, thank God.
You have to say, broke a lot, people like, you can just wait for a dollar, I mean,
Yeah.
unless they have long.
You don't have to unless, but if you want to stop appearing for Yom Tov, then you have to say it.
I was like, we should get a button, but